Language and culture are intertwined. A particular language usually points out to a specific group of people. When you interact with another language, it means that you are also interacting with a culture that speaks the language. You cannot understand one's culture without accessing its language directly. Sasrikal listeners, here is Giridhar and you are listening to the podcast Giridhar's Garady. Today we have someone who seemed to be silent yet talkative, who seemed to be innocent yet smart, who is not just modern but also traditional. The one who got creativity not just in his thoughts but also in his actions. All in all, a sparkling personality. Well, without any further ado, let me welcome the guest for today's episode, Shravan. Hi Shravan, welcome to Giridhar's Gardy. How are you doing today?
Hello, Giridhar. Thank you for the lovely introduction. And I'm doing pretty fine today. And how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Shravan, just one question before we continue. How do you feel like being here as a guest on this podcast?
I feel pretty much excited, to be honest, because I've been never on a show like this. And I always wanted to make some shows. It's not the show, I understand, but yeah, I'm also interested in probably something like short movies or something like this, and also to share my thoughts. So it's exciting to be here.
Wow, happy to collaborate with a personality whose interests match just with me. All
Yep,
right.
thanks.
Yeah. All right. So, Shravan, tell me, what is this language and culture all about?
Language and culture are all about the society and the neighborhood. They give you a glimpse of the behavior patterns of the society. Don't you think so?
Yes, of course. Okay. So, how is language and culture related?
That's an interesting question. If you would have asked me about 3 years ago, I would have said that they might not be related at all. But now, as I just got some more experience about these things, I would say that they are related, and I have a slightly different opinion right now. I would say culture is actually encoded in a language. All the languages have the vocabulary to express, but in daily life usage, you find the differences where people are more open and more expressive. You would find that in the daily use of languages like Rama Rama or Shiva Shiva when something goes bad in Telugu.
Yes.
And probably when you take an example of some other cultures, like the Western cultures, take Spanish. They are more expressive, they are more talkative, and they also allow dance more. So when a person from this region happens to speak with you or interact with you, then you would get phrases that are more related to dance and expressions. These could be expressions or idioms, and they would relate these sort of expressions or idioms to happiness because they think doing something like this is happiness for them.
Oh, sounds interesting. So, tell me, Shravan, why is language important to a culture?
Well, for any civilization, any society, a mode of communication is very important, and so is the language important to the culture. So the language determines how effectively people communicate. The language might not be just a verbal language. You could also express something with your bodily movements or as fine arts, as a pictures. That used to be the mode of communication or language in the prehistoric age. So, a language or a mode of communication is very important to any society or any culture, and it if uh, and I think it also depends how effectively people can communicate. or how politely or probably how violently people communicate.
Okay. So, how does language reveal about culture?
My idea about it is something different, and to express my idea, we need to go back to the time when civilizations have started forming. So I think during the start of the civilizations, people tried to see different ways how they could live together. And so they made some rules which are effective. And the civilizations which made good decisions and which implemented the rules nicely had just held on and continued for a longer time, and civilizations which did not, so did not continue. So I think these set of rules that the civilizations has established during their development has something to do with culture, or actually these are the rules that became the culture, because I think culture is just the way people live. So I think language has also evolved alongside the culture, and so the aspects of the society which the culture comprises of, the language also has it.
Okay. Okay. So, now that you were saying about society, let me put my next question in this way. What is the impact of a language and culture on the society?
I think language and culture are the society itself. Society, as I already told you, or already expressed my view that culture is a soft set of rules that helps you understand how to live and behave in that society.
Okay. Okay. So, so far we have just seen the general characteristics, we can say, or the general specifications of a language and culture. Now, let's go a little more into your experience. So, what is a language and culture that you love most and why?
Uh, okay, that's an interesting question because I did not think that I ever have a favorite culture, because I think the time I spent understanding the cultures is very less, and so it's not fair to have a favorite one already. And all the cultures I saw till now are equally exciting, but in different ways. And when it comes to languages, I think the language that instills excitement in me at this moment is Spanish.
Oh, great. So, can you give us some insights of your culture in your own language?
Okay, should I say it in Telugu or in English? Can I say it
Yeah,
in English?
yeah, it's your language. You can choose any language and you can talk about its culture.
Okay, I think my culture is one of the oldest in India, and it has also went through all the changes like most of the other languages and cultures, but it still holds strong. I think it's because it's one of the oldest. It withheld all the difficult situations already in the past, and that's the reason why I think even though there are so many cultural shocks during the evolution of our culture, it just withheld and it just still exists. And okay, so to put it simply, or in some few words, I would say our culture has love and compassion, acceptance and tolerance, patience and perseverance, morality and values, guidance and motivation, and the last part I like most, art, dance, and food. Of course, there would be few exceptions for all the things that exist in the world. So I think there are also exceptions to what I said in our culture.
Okay, great. The comparisons that you were saying, regarding the tolerance and all the other things, about I mean the insights about our culture, that was amazing. Kudos to you.
Thanks.
Okay, my next question to you: what is the difference between various languages and cultures that exist in India?
Okay, to answer this question, I actually need to understand all the cultures and languages that exist in India, which is impossible for a person in a lifetime to make. And so I would put it in a general way. I think as there is so much regional diversity in India, there are also many languages and cultures that evolved in these particular regions. So each culture has evolved from their own respective natural resources, climates, and the way or the cultural shocks that the culture experienced during its evolvement. For example, the culture of southern part of India is more conservative when compared to the north. And in the east, the culture is a bit more expressive than the west. And in the west, people observe more religious views, or people have more religious views. And again, they have specific set of beliefs. And probably in the eastern part of India, it's a bit softer, or they are a bit softer on this set of rules. And yeah, I think it's because of the way the culture evolved. Probably on the west, there is more chaos and violence than in the east, where they might have experienced a bit of more peaceful life. Of course, it's not saying that everything is very good everywhere, but it all depends on how the culture has evolved and what is it experienced through the evolution.
Nice. I have to say that's a wise answer because you have generalized everything and said it in a very few words. Great. So, my next question to you, Shravan: do you think there is an effect of language and culture on the bonding between any two individuals or people as a group?
I think yes, of course. uh, I would just take an example. This is not to determine or to debate why or in what way people should be or what techniques should the people adopt, but rather to see different views. So for example, taking a joint family system where there are grandparents, parents, and children, and probably there is more time for the people to look after each other and care. So this would build trust and bond among the family members, because probably when a child is growing up and when he gets support from a person consistently, then he can believe in them, he can trust in them, and so is the bond. So if he gets any trouble, probably this would uh, help, or the child has this freedom to communicate and trust other people. I'm not saying that it would not be the case in case of nuclear families or people staying away, but yeah, probably it's there is a more percentage of how do you say it? I think it's more probable that this particular person who might be staying alone has no friends at some point of time, and probably then he could not find somebody specific who he can trust and discuss his problems with. So this is just one kind of bonding that I mentioned, but there are also different sort of bonds, like the bond between a wife and husband, a man and a girl, or a woman. I mean, so it all depends on the way you see it, and also depends on the culture. Probably some cultures do not allow because they saw some difficulties of why this bond would not work, or how is it not good or bad for the societies or the civilizations while they are developing. This might not be the same case right now, but when you say about culture, it's like the systems of a country, it's not so easy to change as we thought, as we think. So it would take some time, and as the culture evolves, there would be some people who would be benefited and some people who are not so benefited. The only thing that I can say here is that we need to have some patience, and the patience would pay off.
Okay, great. Lastly, one message for our listeners with respect to language and culture.
I would say I try to explore as many languages and as many cultures as possible. Once you, if you try to learn a language, then you can learn a language, of course. But to really understand or to extract fun out of a specific language, you have to understand the culture first, or else you would not relate everything that a native speaker speaks, and then the language is not so fun as it should have been. And once you get to know different cultures, you would get different views and perspectives of for a specific problem, or just to think about something. And I think it gives you more insight, and you would be pretty satisfied with, to learn about different cultures and languages.
Okay. Well said, Shravan. That's a beautiful message.
Thank you.
All right. So now it's time for a short rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So my first question to you, Shravan, in the rapid fire round: language or culture?
Well, that's a difficult question. Okay, culture.
Okay. Next question: Telugu or Hindi?
Telugu.
Okay. Hot or sweet?
Hot.
Okay. Holi or Diwali?
Holy.
Okay. Michael Jackson or Prabhu Deva?
Should I pick one of them?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's up
Prabhudeva.
to you. You can pick both. You don't have to pick anyone. That's also fine.
Okay, let me go with Prabhudeva.
Okay. Chiranjeevi or Amitabh Bachchan?
I would say Allu Arjun.
All right. Shreya Ghoshal or Lata Mangeshkar?
Shreya Ghosal.
Okay. Delhi or Hyderabad?
Hyderabad.
Okay. Kurta or Sherwani?
Sherwani.
Okay. So my last question to you, Shravan, in this rapid fire round, I find it more interesting and it's my favorite one. Let's see what you're going to say. Giridhar or Shravan?
Both of us, because we both of us made it happen.
Again, that's a wise answer. Great. Thank you so much for choosing me along with you.
Thank you, Giridhar, for having me in your show.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shravan, for being with us on this podcast today. We look forward to having you once again in the near future.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye. Well, that's the end of today's episode, listeners. Do like, comment, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed listening to this episode. I'll be back next week with another amazing guest. Till then, bye bye.